The Orange Zone, sponsored by Billy Whitaker Cars and Trucks and Apex Entertainment.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Orange Zone podcast. We have Ashley Wenskoski, James Mungro, former SU running back and Super Bowl champion. I'm Samantha Croston. Just to say it off the bat, your girl's voice is battling through some things and persevering. So it's not that I'm not excited. I'm just trying to maintain it.
You need to show some excitement, please.
And I knew Mungro would say something like that, and that's okay. We are coming to you on Election Day after Syracuse mounted a second-half comeback against Virginia Tech, 38-31. This was a win unlike any other that we have seen throughout the course of the season. How are we feeling?
I feel good. We got a W. It was tough, obviously, but they found a way to pull it out at the very end, and that's the shows that they never gave up. And they could have packed it in very early, but they didn't, and they stuck together as a team, and they finally got on the right pages. And when they started clicking, obviously, you saw what happened.
Yeah, survive in advance. They were trailing 21-3 with just over 7 minutes remaining in the third quarter. And I'm not going to lie, we've seen this team come out to some slow starts, right? So the first half, not feeling great. It's 14-3 at halftime. And then when Virginia Tech scored again to open that third quarter, I don't know how you felt. I know you were there. I was kind of like, oh boy, like we might be in for just a long night all around.
I thought that as well. It wasn't going our way at all by no means.
No.
The guys were not playing well at all. And unfortunately, I was just saying, man, this is terrible. This is terrible. But they found a way to pull it off, and that's give them credit. That's resilience of tough game, tough battle against Virginia Tech. But at the very end, we found a way to pull it off in overtime.
That's a game they do not win last year. That's all I wanted to say.
No, I totally agree. First of all, I love when Mungro says terrible. They're playing just terrible.
Terrible.
It was something that when you're just like, not again. Just not again.
Especially after Pitt.
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
And I understand all that. Although I will say, I don't know why I feel the need to look at this from such a glass half full mindset, but I just found this entire operation to be so impressive. To be down 21-3, how easy would it have been to just give up?
Absolutely.
But this is homecoming. This is a game that's on your own home turf.
Yes.
And not only to go on ahead and tie it, but to, again, trust your team in overtime, trust that your offense can outwork the other players and win. It showed a lot to me about Fran Brown and, honestly, the entire Syracuse program. Now, all of a sudden, you're thinking, yeah, this is a different team than last year because they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I have to say, on the overtime point, I don't know how you feel about this, Mungro. I love the Fran Brown decisions. Now, we've seen it twice at UNLV and in this game to take the extra point to go to overtime. I hate when football coaches do the go for two. You don't get it, you lose. I hate that. I love that Fran is willing to bet on his own team in overtime.
Yeah, and you know something, I think what Virginia Tech totally messed up at was they were really scared of, Kyle's arm. And, yes, they did get an interception, but what the best part about it is I'm saying to myself, they need to run the ball. They just need to run the ball. There's too many guys in the DBs back there in zone coverage just sitting, waiting for the ball to be thrown. They figured it out. They made adjustments at halftime, came out, and they ran the ball finally.
Mm-hmm. And I think I was like looking at some people next to me saying this is kind of where you see a coaching staff in their first year either mature or not be up to the task, right? It's those in-game adjustments. It's those, as you mentioned, the passing game is just flat out not working in the first half. You don't even have one touchdown. McCord can't get anything going. You need to run the ball, and they figured out a way to do that in the second half because of LEQUINT Allen, who just, that guy.
And you got to also thank the offensive linemen. They were clicking. They were actually moving guys around, and you can see the confidence was being built. And by overtime, the confidence was there, and they just ran the ball right down their throat.
You know what I thought was odd, and someone tell me if there's a reason why they would do this. I don't know why I couldn't understand this. I was listening to this game on the radio because I was driving, and at the end, Virginia Tech was the last team with the ball at the end of regular play.
Yes.
Why did they take a knee and not try to pass the ball a few times and then kick a field goal? I didn't understand that. I feel like there was enough time to do that.
I actually wondered that at the time, too. I think it was like 20 or 30 seconds. It wasn't
why
a
not
lot
try?
of time, but if I were them, I would have tried.
Is it just like a risk-reward sort of thing?
Well, God forbid something happens. This is getting overtime in its play, because both teams are going to get opportunity,
Yeah.
So, that's when you're looking at the statistics part of it, I think you're better off statistically of doing what they did.
Yeah, okay. I was just curious. Well, yeah, I mean, listen, either way, they did end up going to overtime. And LEQUINT Allen is obviously someone who we talked about a lot, not only throughout the game, but also his overtime performance. You also have Kyle McCord, 24 for 35, 280 yards. This is the first game he didn't throw for 300 yards. I don't know how he threw for over 300 yards in Pitt and not here. That feels like it doesn't make sense. 2 touchdowns.
Time.
What'd you say?
It was garbage time.
I know. I know. 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Who stuck out to you guys? Who do you feel like had that MVP award for this game?
I mean, it has to be LEQUINT. There's really just no other answer. 21 carries for 121 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also had 5 catches for 37 yards receiving, which we should point out broke the record. He now has the most catches and receptions of any Syracuse running back ever. So that's a cool stat. But yeah, LEQUINT just found a new gear in the second half, and especially in overtime. Fran Brown said, overtime, that's LEQUINT time. Just get LEQUINT the ball. He turned on the Jets, and honestly, even besides the touchdowns and besides the overtime, he found some lanes and had some good runs for yardage in this game in just terms of the second, third quarter. I would say he looked better on the ground than he has maybe all year in this game from start to finish.
Yeah, I would agree. I felt like just the offense was clicking running the ball wise, and he was determined. He was determined out there, and he brought the force. And he did a lot of himself. He did a lot of things himself. Getting some extra yards like that. But his offensive linemen, they were blocking. I mean, you could just see they were having fun at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you have to give credit where credit is due to Virginia Tech, too. Worth mentioning that they had their backup quarterback in there and then their third-string quarterback in there. They were also without their backup running back. That backup quarterback, Colin Schlee, really, he tried in this game. He did a lot.
And even, correct me if I'm wrong, but even when the third quarterback went in there, the third quarterback scored a touchdown too.
Yeah, and then Schlee came back out.
But
yeah.
Right. But still, I mean, so yes, to say that everybody who was put in on Virginia Tech's end did a good job, for sure, I would say. I think on Syracuse's side, you also have to give a little honorable mention shout out to Justus Ross-Simmons. 88 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns, sort of like a breakout game for him. Someone who had been recovering from an injury. And I really like the quote Ashley has here where he told Fran earlier in the week that he might redshirt. And Fran says, redshirt my butt, you're going to play this week. I think that also shows as a coach, understanding where your players are at and what they might be capable of doing. It was the right call.
Yeah, he, I really like Kyle spreading the ball around. And that's something to give credit to him that he doesn't have a favorite receiver.
Yeah.
Like, he spreads the ball around. Like, whoever's open, he's going to throw the ball to. And I really am impressed with that in that area with him.
Yeah, we saw him kind of facilitate. Like, you have to give some credit to Kyle McCord there, facilitating yet another breakout game for yet another new receiver. We've seen him lean on Pena so heavily. Pena had a lot of drop balls in the first half, but then kind of rebounded in the second half. Had some big plays, even though no touchdowns. We saw Gadsden had the 2-point conversion, but McCord has been able to spread the ball around very well. 6 different receivers caught a pass in this game. But to go back to your point for a second about what Fran Brown said, his quote. Fran has had some interesting quotes this week in particular. I mean, the guy's a quote machine, but I think as we're heading into like the final third, you'd say, of the season, he's really revealing some interesting, I guess, just a look into like a coach's inner workings, right? How you balance the on-the-field play, the time management, those decisions, but then how you also balance the off-the-field stuff. Even just with this week, talking about how he was talking about the offensive line in particular, saying, you don't play those guys. Somebody asked him why he was mixing in so many different pieces that we don't even normally see, some second, third string guys in that game. And he was like, you don't play guys that are good. You have guys on your bench, they're going to leave in the transfer portal era. I forget the exact quote. They're going to say bye. And then he said like something really funny, like other coaches, you don't play your good guys, I'll take them. But he's just been giving those inner working, interesting quotes. Same thing with the Ross-Simmons thing and redshirting about how to balance a team, win games on the field, but also in this era of the transfer portal, keep your players happy, keep everyone knowing what their spot is, and keep them working towards the ultimate goal.
And that's the key component. I didn't really think about that, like with the transporter, how people could just leave. So, like, again, if you have someone on the bench that potentially you're trying to save him, you can't do that now these days. You have to at least give him a shot because they'll find some place else to go that will give him a shot. So give him credit with that. I mean, he's doing a hell of a job. I mean, 6-2, first-year coach. he's doing a great job. He has the kids believing into the system with the running. Now it's just about really just being consistent. And, we haven't really been consistent at all this whole year, ups and downs. But, with 4 games left, this is where they really could make some damage.
Yeah, qualified for a bowl game still with 4 games to go. And I know that's not the goal. It wasn't the goal at all this season. Fran actually kind of caught himself in the post game. Like when somebody was at like, oh, Fran, you qualified for a bowl game. Are you happy? He was kind of like, I don't give a damn about that. And then he was like, no, that is important. Qualified for a bowl rather early, and I don't think that that's something you can overlook in a head coach's first year, right? Like we've seen it throughout college football. It's not we've seen what happened at Michigan this year. Sharon Moore, they might not go to a bowl.
But another thing too, just because you're eligible for a bowl game doesn't mean you're gonna get picked. But recently, over the years, they've been taking teams with losing records. So I think we're in a great position. I mean, 6-2, like I said, you gotta give credit where credit's due. I don't think anybody thought Syracuse with a new coach would be 6-2. Only me, I think, would thought that.
You would have thought that, and we know you would have thought that, so we'll give you credit for that.
But he's just doing a really good job, and the kids really believe in him. And I just really, the future is very bright. It's very bright. Once we start to be consistent, that's the word, consistent. Then that's when we could be talking about being in the top 25 and talking about one of the elite teams in the country.
Yeah, you're still seeing some of those little intricacies get cleaned up, right? The penalties, some of the stuff that's going to happen under a first-year coaching staff, you're still looking for a little bit. You're still looking for 4 quarters of complete football because we haven't seen that. But at the end of the day, they fight for him so much. This game, I think the Virginia Tech game was the pinnacle example of that this season on how much that team fights for him.
Back to the belief thing for a second. I was at that press conference earlier this week, and I think what makes it so easy to like him and respect him as not just a head coach but also a person is because I think he really understands that balance. One of the things he was talking about, and when I say balance, I mean understanding how to motivate your players but also holding them accountable.
Yes.
On the one hand, he said, when he's talking about getting guys in, he's like, when I should have played a guy and I didn't, I say, I'm really sorry. I should have played you in that situation. And sometimes I just focus on giving a guy 7 minutes because even if they play in a game for 7 minutes, that could be enough to motivate and inspire them and make them want to continue fighting. To me, that was so smart. There are so many guys who are probably on that fence of just trying to and wanting to feel important. I even understand that as someone who rode the bench for a while in high school. 7 minutes would have meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
And I think it would have kept me inspired. On the other hand, and he never mentioned who it was, I want to say he said it was a defensive back, but someone on the team, and this was this past week, who had called him and Fran called him and said, hey man, you've been acting weird this whole week. What's going on? And he said, I feel like I deserve to play. I feel like I deserve to be out there. He's like, deserve? He's like, and I started listening to him, all the things that went wrong in practice. A couple times he messed up in this game, that game.
Late to
you
class.
were late to class. You were late to this practice. Deserve. He goes, that's called entitlement. You don't deserve anything.
Yeah.
And the fact that he would say that and be honest, all of a sudden it's it just changes your whole worldview, I think, as someone who's just growing up, and you become a more accountable version of yourself.
And
that's what
good.
people remember.
And that's good that he even said that, class, everything, because it's not just, the X and O's out there. You got to be all around an athlete. And academics is very important too as well. So for him to say that to the player, that's showing matureness and showing that the coach is not just there for the kid to be playing on the field. He wants the kid to graduate too. I mean, if you're going to do things right on the field, you're going to have to do things right in the classroom as well.
Yeah, he said that was a defensive back. He didn't say who it was. I have some ideas who it could be, but I won't throw names at a wall. But he also has talked about at length, another example of that is King Joseph Edwards, right? Top recruit coming into this year's class, a 4-star guy, kind of the guy that was that national-esque commitment that got everybody really excited. He's played. We saw him have a big Holy Cross game with all those sacks. But Fran also in the press conference on Monday said, he's going to play. He's going to continue to play. We were impressed by him against Holy Cross. But some of this stuff is off-the-field maturity stuff. Are you going to class on time? Are you doing your schoolwork? All that stuff. Why do you deserve to be in there over, a guy who's been here for 4 years if you're not cleaning up the lifestyle stuff.
Things. It's the little things.
Right.
It's the little things, you got to be accountable on the field and off the field.
But King Joseph, a perfect example of a guy who, if he never plays, could say, see you tomorrow. So it's that balance of figuring out how to, sure, you're not as a head coach just here to keep your team happy and you're trying to win games, but in this transfer portal era, that is a factor.
It is. And he even said it, and then we'll move on from this, but he said 7 minutes could be the difference between them getting a Syracuse level education or not. Why would I not want them to get a Syracuse level education? That I think shows a lot about who he is and what he really wants for all of these young young men's futures. It's not just about the football aspect of it, because I'm sure many of them will get a pro opportunity, but some won't. And the fact that they will graduate from this with all that knowledge and that education means something to him.
There's so many intangibles, and when you're talking about the player from college going. I mean, yes, there'll be a lot of guys get opportunities, but actually, how many guys are actually going to be on the team for more than 3 or 4 years?
Right.
And that's a tough thing. Like you'll get 10 guys out of a class that get tryouts with teams, but then out of those 10 guys, you get 2 guys that are drafted, and then you get another maybe 2 guys that are free agents. So, I mean, moral of the story is better get your education. I mean, I tell everybody that. I mean, that's for most, you better get that, because then you got to worry about injuries as well. So, Fran is doing a great job. I was really impressed with the defense. The defense was doing a pretty good job out there, with Grant and with
Marlowe.
Marlowe, yes. Leading the guys in tackles and sacks as well. They're stepping the game up.
Yeah, God, did they miss Marlowe. I mean, I was saying it the whole time he was out, but forcing that fumble, he's the one who forced that fumble to end the game. I mean, that doesn't happen if Marlowe Wax wasn't there. So, yeah, I thought the defense was good. We saw them kind of shut down Virginia Tech in the second quarter after Virginia Tech came out with 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. Definitely still some things to be cleaned up on special teams. We saw another blocked punt, but we have to give the underrated, if this game has an underrated star game ball, Jack Stonehouse chasing down that Virginia Tech guy who recovered the block punt and then was Syracuse loses that game if Jack Stonehouse doesn't chase him down and tackle him.
Yeah.
So
He
Jack
was a dog for
Stonehouse,
that.
gold star. You got the kicker.
I watched that clip.
Ooh.
Jack Stonehouse put it on his Instagram. It's just an awesome feeling when you see a kicker truck somebody.
No one's giving up. You know what I mean? They're playing, and that's the heart of Orangeman.
Wish that didn't happen, but they didn't give up when it did.
Yes, I agree. So, all right, let's look ahead for a minute. Obviously, we have Boston College, but just to zoom out, because this is something I've been thinking about. It's like, all right, so now you're bowl eligible. What now? When you look ahead at this point, you have Boston College left, Cal, who's dead last, bottom of the ACC. BC, by the way, pretty low as well. You have UConn, who's an independent team, and then Miami, number 4, right at the top of the ACC. I'm just saying, if they lost every single game the whole way, then they'd be a 6-win team. If they won every single game, they'd be 10-2. That's probably not going to happen. But even if they split, and they were 8-2, that would still be the highest wins in a regular season that they've had since 2018. So just thinking about it from that standpoint, with Fran Brown in his first year, yeah, it's like you're 2 wins away from something really impressive in your first year as head coach.
Go ahead.
I would totally agree with that. That's very impressive. Again, no one thought that he would come in here and do it, make those changes so quick. But he's doing it. He's very consistent of what he's trying to get the guys to believe in. And I do think they'll. They got 4 games left. If they get all 4 games, that would be a tremendous. 10-2. That would be, like you said, 2018. That would be incredible. But
and that was a 10-win season for the record. But I'm just saying the highest win total since then.
Yeah.
But to press y'all, how many games do you actually think they'll win now out of the last 4?
I think so. I'm fairly confident, and Cal's a sneaky one because Cal has had a bad year and is at the bottom of the ACC, and their record doesn't reflect it. But Cal's given some good teams a run for their money. I think they win against Boston College and Cal and UConn and go into that Miami game. I guess would that be 9-2? Then I don't know Miami's a really good team. Can they beat Miami? We'll see. Maybe if they go into that game 9-2, they have some momentum on their side. It is at home. Granted, it's Thanksgiving break, so will anybody be there? No one's sure. But maybe that's the pinnacle of kind of success that you reach this year, at least making that Miami game feel like it's a competitive game end of the year. I think they could lose a sneaky one to either Boston College or Cal, but if I had to guess, I would say they win the next 3.
I think they'll win the next. It's going to be tough. I mean, I hate to speak in the advance because Boston College, I think, is going to give us a run for the money.
I really
this
do
week.
too.
I honestly think Boston College
game.
is going to be a close game up there.
Rivalry, the
rivalry
whole
is
thing.
so close. Northeast schools, two schools that don't like each other, and even though Boston College is on a 3-game losing streak, it's going to be tough to play up there. It's going to be, and if we don't play fast, and start very fast from the start, we're going to be in trouble because it's going to be hard to come back at Away Stadium in the fourth quarter or overtime to win a game.
Yeah, I think that if they lose one of those two, it is to Cal, right? You got to go to the West Coast. That's a team that probably is a little better than their record reflects. But I agree with you that Boston College is going to be more of a challenge than people think. You have a team that's coming off 3 straight losses. Boston College at this point is just playing for their life in terms of they're not really playing for it, but they're playing for formidability, right? They're playing for average, even respect at 4-4, or I guess a bowl game too. But Bill O'Brien, I don't think it can be understated. Bill O'Brien is a guy who got that Boston College job that has, NFL experience. He was the head coach of the Texans. He was the head coach at Penn State. He was an assistant with the Patriots. So Bill O'Brien is a guy who is going to try to build that Boston College program in a similar sense to what Fran Brown is doing here. Boston College is favored by 2.5 points. They are at home. And Boston College, another team that, see, it makes me a bit confident in the fact that Virginia Tech beat Boston College handily. We beat Virginia Tech, barely, I guess. Boston College's lone ACC win is Florida State, which is, we all know they're terrible. And they also lost by 4 points to Louisville. And Louisville's a really good team, as we saw last week. So,
and they crushed Duquesne University, who was a nobody,
The conclusion is you really don't know. You just don't freaking know in football.
I think, though, up in Boston, it's going to be, I think the crowd could be the 12th man there. And that's what I'm worried about, to be honest with you.
But noon game, you think they'll be out there for a noon game?
This is Boston College. They'll love to knock off Syracuse. This is like pretty much like their Super Bowl, I would say.
And honestly, I think other student sections do a better job than ours. Truthfully, I think there are some other ACC student sections that you see more from and you expect more from. And I feel like I wouldn't be surprised to see BC have a good crowd there, even at a noon start.
I sat next to the student section, actually, where our seats were at this past game. And
it was not a good week.
And the student section, they were gone.
And
it was homecoming and all that type of stuff, but they didn't see the overtime at all. They didn't know who won the game until the very end.
The Syracuse student section is, and I can say this because I was one of them, is like embarrassingly fickle. Like you saw them in the first couple games of this first home games. Place was packed, the whole upper deck was filled. They were so into it. They lose one game, and it's like the kids are at the bar. The kids are like, we lost one game, folks. We're still having a really good year. Hello.
They don't cover it and are invested in it the way we are.
I never understood. All my friends would always want to go to the bar. They'd always want to, watch at somebody's house. Yeah, but you can drink and then you can go to the dome for a half. Like, you play in the dome. I don't get it.
It's inside. It's
I hate that. That's
climate.
one of my least favorite topics.
You should be very happy about, being in a controlled climate. No
That's
rain,
what I mean.
no snow,
it's November. It's still warm in there. It's not outside. You got kids at Penn State. It's 0 degrees.
No shirt on.
Ashley has a message for you.
I have a problem with the student section.
Okay, just to say it, and I should have said this earlier, but I just want to bring it up once because this was like a big topic of conversation in the press conference, and you guys were both there, so you maybe see it. Did either of you see the Virginia Tech kicker on the field at halftime during the band?
No, I didn't. I did not.
Yes.
I did not see it. I read about it this morning about Coach being pissed off about it, and I'm like, "What do you mean with the band?" And first thing in my mind was the kicker situation, NFL stuff. The kicker with Baltimore Ravens and I think the Chiefs. They were talking about how the guy moved the helmet and all that type of stuff, and they kicked the helmet off, the kicker's helmet. So that was in my mind. And then I read the article just a little bit because you have to pay to read a little bit more. I read to where I could read so much.
Mungro can't afford the
hysterical thing to say.
You got the same thing. It's locked.
Hey, I get it, bro.
So I'm just like, what exactly happened? So inform me. What happened? Anybody know?
So the kicker walked out there, I guess, like trying to warm up while the band was still out there. There's a really funny photo of he's literally weaving in between the band.
So ignorant.
Yeah. Fran Brown literally said, quote, that pissed him off. Then the kicker, after Fran's press conference yesterday on Monday, actually put out an apology on Twitter. I think his name's John Love, apologizing to Syracuse and apologizing to the.
That's nice.
So Fran Brown's like calling people out and not being afraid to do that. We've seen it multiple times this year, whether it was the Georgia Tech stuff or whether it was this stuff. You have to walk a fine line with it. You don't want to make enemies all throughout the league. But when something like that's outwardly disrespectful, it's your homecoming, it was what it was, and it wasn't great.
Honestly, to your point, I know when you say some things like that, it can be polarizing, but I really think that got a lot of really positive traction, me included. He said, don't disrespect the band.
Don't F with the Syracuse band, folks.
But I like that. He's actually right. He's like, they go to the class the same way everybody else does.
Yeah.
They're students, too. They're a part of the football game. To me, it sort of showed, everybody on the field matters to him.
Yes.
Everybody is a part of the operation. And honestly, the fact that the guy actually took the time, probably saw the press conference and apologized
And that's
after.
rightfully so. That was good for him.
Yeah, first of all, I give that guy a lot of credit too.
Yes.
That's very respectful. But it elevates all of football. It's like, all right, so we're not going to be disrespectful to each other anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, you really feel like Fran has a pulse on literally everybody involved with the entire experience, right? Like the band, to your point, they go to class. You know how many hours they spend like with the cheerleaders, like going through all that stuff. And like, you feel like Fran has a pulse on also the media. Like we're trying to do our jobs, like for as much as that can be a polarizing topic too. Like you just feel like he really respects and wants to pour into every single group involved with the program, not just his own team. And God knows he has enough to worry about on his own team too.
He sure does.
Yeah, I know. It was actually kind of funny. He said, like, someone asked him, like, what's been one of the tougher challenges in your first year as head coach? And he said, talking to y'all about the media. And then he's like, no, I'm just kidding.
Because he's so blunt, and it's like our dream. Like we love how blunt he is as reporters, but like I think he has become increasingly more and more media trained to the point we saw him with the bowl game question. Right? He was kind of like, I don't give a damn, basically, and then he was like, I know what you all are gonna say. Yes, I do give a damn. That's exciting. That just wasn't our first goal. So we've seen him, grow.
All right, prediction time, and then we'll get out of here. Sammy's voice is hurting.
You can go first.
Oh, okay. I think Syracuse. The key to this game for Syracuse, like you mentioned a few minutes ago, is coming out to a fast start. To your point, you can't get away with that second half comeback garbage on the road as well as you can in your own dome when you got the fans willing you to a win. I think Syracuse needs to get out to a fast start, or at least a competent start. You can't be in a giant hole at halftime. And I think that's important for Kyle McCord and his confidence and the whole offense's confidence as well. I think Syracuse wins this game 31-28.
Ooh. You want me to go first, or you want to go and then you can just roast me?
I think we're going to be different on this one, so you can go first.
I think Syracuse is going to lose.
You guys have been haters lately.
Yeah, but he's going to say it too, right?
You guys said they were going to lose to Virginia Tech.
I know. Did we both say that? Yeah, we did.
Yeah, you
Wait,
did.
And meanwhile,
And it was me and Rachel saying
when
they
it
were
was
gonna
when
win.
it was 21-3, I'm like, yep, told y'all. But I do. I think, and for the record, I think they're going to win against Cal. I think they're going to win against UConn, and I think Miami's going to be competitive. But I think Boston College is the hardest out of my like the four that are left. I think besides Miami, BC is really going to be tough. I think just with the rivalry, with the history, they're on the road. The students, I agree about the 12th man. I think this is really, really competitive. And I do think it's really close. I could even see it being another overtime game that maybe doesn't go their way. I think it's exactly what the spread says. I think it is a 3-point game, but I think BC wins it. Close one, ends in a field goal. And maybe I'll go, I can't do 31-28 because you did that. So I'll go like a little lower.
28-21?
I'll go, that's not, okay.
See, that's why that's why I want to say mine right now, 28-21.
All right, fine.
She wouldn't say.
28-21 you say. I want to say 27-24.
We're not losing to Boston College, folks. Thank you. And good night.
Can I say my stuff
Sure,
now?
go ahead, sorry.
What I think.
Go ahead.
I think Syracuse is going to lose again. I mean, I think they're going to, not again. I think they're going to lose, like I said last week. They have not been consistent, and that's the reason why I'm saying that. I hope they prove me wrong,
Same.
but until they show me to be consistent, then, I could change my mind. But if I don't know by halftime who's
Right.
going to win or lose.
know
By
what?
halftime,
Like
once
they
you watch
won
the
against
first
Virginia
half,
Tech, but barely.
Yeah.
Yes. And by halftime, you'll know what route they're taking. And
Or will you? Like, you didn't know this game?
But it's different. A home game, and an away game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we saw how the momentum, an away game, previously against Pittsburgh, when the momentum was in Pittsburgh's hand, we couldn't get the momentum at all. Zero momentum. So if we do not start fast, then I don't see it looking good for us.
Yeah, I agree on the fast start. I think it's interesting to see if they carry in, I guess, their reinvigorated ground game and running game with LEQUINT Allen, if they carry that into this week. And maybe you see them, because they haven't leaned on it heavily in the first quarter and their first few drives. It's been all passing all the time. It's going to be interesting to me if they come out and Jeff Nixon leans on the running game a little bit more earlier in this game.
Well, we throw for first downs, we're like, our average for first downs is a lot higher on passing.
Yeah.
I mean, in passing,
Yeah.
than running the ball. So I think if we could balance that out, maybe start out with the running game first, then go to the passing game, that type of thing. But try to balance it out a lot better, balance it from previous times.
And Nixon said that all year. They want to be balanced, so we'll see if they can be balanced.
All right, folks. Either way, win, lose, whatever the case may be, we will see you back here next week to talk about it. So thanks so much again, as always, for joining us, for sticking with us. We'll see you back here next Wednesday.
The Eagles have claws, you know that.